The surplus in the euro area's trade balance has fallen by almost €5 billion from the same time last year, mainly due to a fall in exports. However, the EU is still finding markets for its goods, creating a surplus of more than €17 billion. For Dukascopy TV, I'm Sophia Aribo. With me to discuss the EU's trade position is Alpari's Craig Erlam. Craig, trade between Russia and the EU dropped considerably in the first quarter of the year. How much does this impact on the overall EU trade balance, and could it be a bigger problem if tensions remain high over Ukraine?
Well, I think the most important thing we need to remember right now is that the first quarter, we didn't really see too much problems for most of the first quarter. This all predominantly kicked off in March. So what we're effectively seeing in the first quarter is the early impact of what this has had on European trade, with Russia in particular. The biggest problem we've got to face now is that most of the sanctions were imposed in the second quarter, and the tensions really escalated quite significantly in April and also at the start of May. So I think what we've got to see here is that the trade figures that we've seen so far for the first quarter are concerning, but what they really are is indicative of what we can potentially see in the second quarter, which I imagine is going to be significantly worse.
Looking at the stats for individual Eurozone members, German exports posted their biggest fall in nearly a year in March, narrowing the country's trade surplus. It's the powerhouse of the euro area. How dependent is the bloc's trade balance on how well Germany performs?
Well, I think the trade balance, like any of the figures really that we get out from the Eurozone, is highly dependent on Germany. As you mentioned, Germany is the powerhouse for the Eurozone, and that doesn't appear to have changed despite all of the reforms that we've seen in all of the other countries. So right now, with the area being so dependent on Germany, we do need to see a strong Germany, and that includes both exports as well, and potentially even imports from the other Eurozone countries. So as long as we continue to see these disappointing figures from Germany, which, as I mentioned earlier, I imagine will continue into Q2, given its strong trade with Russia previously, and then I think this could be a bit of a concern for the Eurozone and could almost increase people's fears that these changes which we were meant to see in the Eurozone over the last 2 years haven't really actually come into effect half as much as we'd previously hoped.
Craig, the highest increase of EU exports has been to China, 13% in the first 2 months of the year, and China is the EU's second largest trading partner. Should the slowdown in Chinese growth be a concern for the EU going forward?
I don't think it's going to be too much of a concern. The main reason why is because of the way that the direction that the Chinese economy is moving in. They're moving away from this big investment-led economy, which has driven most of the growth over the past 10 years or so. So this is where the likes of Australia have benefited most, and it's moving towards more of a consumption-led economy, the likes of which we see at the moment in the West, in the US and the UK. Now, this has got to be beneficial for the Eurozone. So while we may see slower growth in the Chinese economy, the fact that a lot of this growth is going to be driven by consumption, which is hopefully going to help with imports from the Eurozone into China.
Thanks for joining me, Craig. That's it for this edition. Goodbye.